It is time for our panel discussion on upstream issues. What's the title? What buyers need to know on materials and inputs. I'll level with you. I have a little bit of trepidation about this topic because it's quite technical, and I'm definitely going to be relying on our expert guests to know all the facts that we need to share. So first, I'm going to bring in Kevin Guo, who is from K&B Metal. Let's get him there. There we are. Hi, good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Tom.
Hi. How are you doing? And where are you calling us from?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm from the KB Metal. Our company is made the die casting parts for the auto, the motorcycle, bicycle like this.
Oh, okay, well, that sort of part. And where is your company based?
Sorry, my English is not good.
Oh, sorry. What city is your company in?
Oh, yeah. Our company have located in the Shanghai city.
Ah, Shanghai. Excellent. Very nice. It's been a long time since I've visited Shanghai. I'd love to go again, in many years, in fact. All right. So thank you for that. And we'll have more from Kevin later. I'm going to bring in some more of our expert guests. I think let's who's next in line? Oh, from representing Hong's group, we have Mickey Xu. Mickey, good morning. Oh, you're muted. Let me... Oh, you have to unmute yourself. There you are. How are you? Oh, wow. There's a bit of robot audio problem. Shall I? Hang on. Hold on a second. I'm going to mute you and then unmute you again. Let's see if it improves. Okay. Not very well. Okay, I'm going to put you on mute for a second and we'll come back to you. I will. Normally this works itself out after a little bit of time. So while we hope that fixes itself, I'm going to add Emily Chen of, let's see, there you are, Kingsay Electronics. Hello. Good morning, Emily.
Good morning, Tom.
Hi, okay, you're coming through loud and clear. Yeah, how are you doing? And where are you calling us from today?
I'm doing good, thank you. And I'm calling from Taipei, Taiwan. And our headquarters is located in Taiwan. And we have two factories in Dongguan and Suzhou.
Oh, I see. Oh, Suzhou, not too far away from Kevin then. So can you tell us a little bit about your, well, I mean, it's not that close either to Shanghai, I guess, but, close enough. So can you tell us a little bit about your company, what you make, maybe where your key markets are, that kind of thing?
Okay. Kingsay is the company that dedicates on acoustic products. So what we make noise. As long as you need a warning signal, you need a siren tone, or buzzer, or can assist you for your device. And as long as you need a tuneful melody, you can consider about our earphone, headset, and TWS.
All right, fantastic. So that sounds pretty enticing. So anyone in the market for noise, you should contact Emily.
Noise and melody and voice tone.
Yeah, excellent. All right, I'm going to try to add Mickey's audio back in. Let's see if that's okay. Mickey, hi. Can you try again?
Yeah.
Oh. No, that's not good, is it? All right. Do you want to try doing the? Sorry, I'm going to mute again. Do you want to try re-entering? I think it might be the best. Sorry. All right, we're going to do the classic reset on a Zoom meeting technique and see if we can get Mickey to come back in. Let me see. Do you think I should we start maybe let's start now, and when Mickey comes in, we can have her introduce herself and her company. I'm sorry, I'm doing the classic talk off camera to the producer thing there. So yeah, let's, while Mickey is sorting that out, and by the way, the test this morning was absolutely fine. There was no problem at all. So it's very typical that things should go wrong now. So yeah, what we're talking about today is quote unquote upstream issues. So when we talk about, many of our viewers will already know this, but just to be clear, when we talk about upstream in the supply chain, we mean, the earliest points. So for example, if you have a company that sells wooden tables, you might order from a supplier that makes those tables, And then upstream from them are the people that, chop down trees, make planks, and so on, and provide the materials to make those things. So we're going to begin by setting up the background of, what upstream means in these different industries. So let's go first to Kevin, I think. So Kevin, can I ask you, what are the key inputs in your industry for manufacturing? And then as a kind of secondary question, could you outline which ones are more vulnerable to things like shortages or changes in price that could be unexpected?
Yes. For our products is die casting industry, the parts. So the main inputs in our industry is material and the labor and the equipment. Because our company is a trading company, but we invest to factory. So this materials, including the stainless steel, the alumina, and I think this is increase over each year, especially this year, and the cost is highly. So I think this is manufacturing inputs for us.
All right, thank you. And then I will throw that question over to Emily as well. So obviously you're working with electronics, components, things like that. So what are the most important inputs for you, and how and which ones can be are sort of vulnerable to changes or fluctuations?
I think that includes materials, equipment, and labors. And the most important one is the materials. Because for labors, we can use the semi-automation or fully automatic equipment to replace or to ease the labor shortage. But for the raw materials, that will be the major parts that may face the shortage issue.
Understood. All right. So I will now attempt to add back not only Mickey, but we also have been joined by our fourth guest of today, who was having some difficulty connecting before. Let's grab Mickey first, and then we'll have our previously undisclosed fourth guest. So here we go. Hey, Mickey, let's try this again. How are things?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Loud and clear. Okay. Right. I knew this would work eventually. We have Peter Chen from Lightspeed waiting in the wings, so we'll add him shortly. But first, Mickey, could you tell us a bit about your company, where it's based, what you make, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So we're based in Xiamen, China, and we mainly make activewear and swimwear. That's our focus, and we are a family-owned and very integrated system for supply chain. So meaning we from design to fabric R&D to fabric knitting to cut and sew, merchandising, and independent QA team. So it's a very integrated system that we focus to provide our supply chain solution. Most of our clients are still doing OEM, ODM, but then we also provide OBM. So it depends on our clients' needs. We mix and match what we could provide to our client as a solution. And this
sounds like yeah. Oh yeah, that's the product sample. Yes, your headless friend in the background. Nice. So I'll ask you that kind of initial question just before we bring Peter in as well. So what are the key inputs for your manufacturing process, and which ones are more vulnerable to things like shortages or price changes?
Yeah, so because we make garments, and especially we make activewear and swimwear, so these are high elastic fabrics. So our main material is actually fabrics. But if we trace back to the most upstream material, then that would be yarn. And yarn can be made out of many different things. It could be natural materials like cotton or like polyester that's spun from mainly chemistry. So if we get more, let's not get into too details, but if we focus on the yarn, the most vulnerable is the synthetic yarn. And these synthetic yarn, for example, polyester, nylon, and spandex, these three yarns are very sensitive to petroleum. So the pricing for the oil, so it will affect a lot. So for example, right now the pricing for petroleum is low, then our polyester will be low, things like that.
All right, fascinating. Yeah, of course, it's obvious now you've said it that yarn is such a key thing, but had not crossed my mind, of course, before we started talking. All right, let's get then our fourth guest here. Peter is calling us from, well, I think I might have to start doing the solo layouts. So everyone's gone small on the screen. Peter, good morning.
Good morning. Well, sorry for late
yeah.
because I got a wrong. Okay. All right. Our base is in Taiwan, and most of our product is communication related, and like 5G routers, 4G routers, and some other modems, which is cellular related products.
Okay, understood.
And
for
the question,
go on. Yeah.
All right. For the question you asked about the material inputs, right now, I think the electronic components we purchase from the name brand, okay, and because of the most difficult part is if the producer or the factory has accident like AKM in Japan, they have of fire accidents last month, and it causing a lot of wafer manufacturers a lot of problem and causing many shortage for the components. So to avoid that, then the lead time has to be longer, and we had to notify the customer, say if they have a requirement, then it will be better to put a forecast so we can have a better preparations for the shortage.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned forecasts there because you know, the next question on my list, so to speak, is you know, what current trends or you know things coming in the future do you see that are going to affect the price or availability of materials or resources for your industry, Peter?
Right. Particularly like wafers, right now is a big shortages. So right now the lead time, you don't believe it, like from the Qualcomm, the lead time is 46 weeks. It's almost 1 year. So we don't know how it's going to be get easier, but that's the way it is now. Particularly the well-known company like Apple's, they have a very big good sales in 5G cellular phone. So the shortage is going to be getting serious. So the only way we can do is try to find a second source or change the design, or maybe just press order and stay in line.
Yeah, wow, 46 weeks. That's a lot of thinking ahead. I've got to say that's quite a long wait. Yeah, well, I mean, let me put the same that same question to Kevin, who's at KMB Metal. What present and future trends do you have for your industry that are going to affect the pricing or the availability of your resources?
I think the trade war from the 3 years ago, you know, this for like you know, for our for our parts, it's very difficult to do. You know, some equipment need our parts, some you know, autumn need our parts. You know, our main customer is a U.S. American customer. So this 2 years we are very hard time, and they increased a lot of the taxes. So maybe the trade war is affecting us. Yeah.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, and no real forecasts, I suppose, of that diminishing, or rather, there are forecasts, but it's hard to know how that might change and affect things. I mean, let's ask Emily about that. For your business, for your industry, what are the things currently and continuing to affect availability and price?
Okay, I think for the positive influence to us is that because our products could be widely used in different applications. And this year, for the medical and smart home application are pretty hot. Yeah. And just like the first 2 quarters, our products could be used to respirators and to help patients in ICU to breathe. So when we need the parts, we negotiate with our material suppliers and tell them that the one more piece you can supply more to us, we can save one more life. So that means for those parts used for this kind of applications, we indeed face that shortage for the material, even the labors. And I think for the coming next year, I think the demand will be also increased. So for the trend, we see that we will continue be required for such kind of special requirement occur due to COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Emily. And Mickey, for you in the fashion garments industry, what are the you're muted, by the way. What are the current and future trends that are affecting your pricing and availability?
So like I said earlier, about the first point will be petroleum, because petroleum will really affect the synthetic yarn that we use. So there's forecast for that, but we don't usually forecast because it's hard to forecast. And secondly, it's the international issue. So for example, the trade war that were mentioned by Peter, and also the international issue like COVID that mentioned by Emily. So I'll have a really simple example to explain this. So in the beginning of this year, because the COVID situation was really bad and there's a lot of mask production, and the elastic for the mask, the elastic part of for the ear part is actually made out of spandex yarn, even though the spec is different than the spandex yarn that we use for garments. But then because they use all of their specs, so they use the thicker spandex yarn and we use the thinner spandex yarn, and they're out of stock because there's too many mass production. And then they start using our thinner yarn for the mask ear part, and then we're out of stock. And then the price for the spandex all rapidly grow very high. So the conclusion is, we need to look at the related items that use the same materials, and then that could affect the price and availability of these of the fabric and yarn for these.
Wow, that's fascinating. I suspect we'll come back to discuss that point about seemingly unrelated products a bit later. But yeah, I find it interesting actually that despite you all four of you are in very, very different industries, it's actually it's the same issues that are affecting those inputs for everyone. Now, I think let's do I'd like to kind of set up one more background info point before we get into the practical advice for buyers who are watching, and that is, I'd like to talk about buyers' own behavior. Kind of, what do buyer requests do that can cause difficulties for you with your sourcing? I mean, well, I'd like to ask Emily this one first, I think. Let me just put your audio back on. So yeah, can you give an example of a way that sometimes buyers' requests can cause difficulties for you to procure the materials or the other manufacturing inputs that you need?
I think for us that for the customers, they have the urgent request, but without any forecast, that would be an issue. So because normally we hope the customer can give us some forecast, just like our automotive customer, they will give us their web EDI information so that we can see their coming 6 months, 12 months request. But for some urgent requests that we don't have the material available and they need very urgent, I think that would be an issue.
Understood. All right. Whoops, I've still got you on solo layout. There we go. So let's ask Kevin that same question. From your experience, what's something that causes difficulties for your sourcing when buyers give you these requests?
Our customer every year talk about price again. So this is a big pressure for us. This year and last year, there's a very hard time. The material increase and labor cost increase. So every year, the customer asks us to reduce the price percent, maybe 1 or 2 or 3%. So I think the buyers, this causes difficulties for us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable, isn't it? Everybody would like the slightly lower price, but at some point you have to concede, I guess, that it's not that practical. Let's see if Peter was having some audio issues earlier. I think they're solved now. Peter, how about you? What are some difficulty causing buyer requests?
怎么会突然这样？
对啊，你刚刚
Oh dear, it seems like Peter cannot hear us. I'm just going to mute his mic for the time being. Well, let's throw that question to Mickey instead. What's some examples of buyer requests? I mean, not like being difficult in themselves, but maybe it's what seems like a reasonable request from the buyer perspective, but actually it causes more problems than they might imagine.
I would say, to be very honest, the first answer from my end is to really know what the buyers want. So meaning that doesn't include everything. So let's say, because price, quality, and the lead time is 3 main points for the manufacturer like us. So we cannot provide low price, very high quality, faster. We want to provide reasonable margin. So, and that really requires transparent communication. And second is about the lack of buying plan. So for example, we produce swimwear and activewear, and swimwear has a very high-low peak production during entire year. So if we have a entire buying plan for the entire year, we actually can do the manufacturing more flexible.
Speaker is gone.
Oh, sorry. I think Peter, can you hear me? No, I don't think he can. I'm gonna quietly mute him for a second. Sorry,
No,
Mickey. I'm gonna put you back on. Please finish your thought.
Yeah, I'm almost done. So so meaning if we have a buying, because 98% of our buyers give us a buying plan for the entire year, so that we can, for example, right now, our polyester yarn is very low, then we can produce in advance so that we can lock down the price. So this is the flexibility I mean. So if we have the entire buying plan and we know what the buyers want, they value quality more, they value price more. It depends on their position in the market. So one is their position, a specific request, and the second is buying plan is very important to us. If they don't have these two, then it could be a little harder for us.
Fantastic, thank you. And yeah, thank you for especially the point about the buying plan. In some of our previous weeks' live streams, this is an issue that's also been mentioned. Kind of in general, the idea that it is very useful for buyers to be to share more information with the suppliers. It may be that it's not of that much use or interest to the supplier, but very often the supplier is able to, because they have many different customers, they'll be able to sort of spot, ways that they can help or things that perhaps the buyer should be doing in the market. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that's technically not the topic of this discussion, but I think it's interesting that it has come up many times. So it looks like it's a thing that more buyers should be just trying to do. Now, let me see. Peter's attempting to rejoin. Hopefully we'll get him back soon. Let's see what else was on our list. Yes. So here we go. Let's transition into the giving buyers tips and info segment. Okay, Peter is back in. Let's see if he can hear us.
Okay.
This is how you know it's live, because if it was recorded, all of this would be edited out. Peter, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry.
Ah, wonderful. No, that's fine. Glad to have you back. So, well, you're just in time to get in on the previous question, which is, could you give an example of some ways that sometimes a buyer has a request that causes you difficulties for, sourcing materials or labor or other inputs?
Oh, okay. The difficult part is the customer, they want to have a product delivery within a short period of time. And like for example, they say, okay, I want to have this product within maybe 1 month or 2 months. And then and this moment, because of the component shortage, and we have a difficulty to get the parts, no matter either from the distributor or from the original source. So this is a difficult part. And particularly when we discuss the pricings, and if the pricing is set, but then the customer wait a long period of time, and because of the currency fluctuating, like for example, like NT dollar right now has been appreciated for like 6% for last half month, and it causing the pricing fluctuate also. So these two parts is the most concern to us. But the most difficult part is the short period of time of the delivery because of the component shortage.
Yes, understood. Well, yeah, 46-week lead times on some things. Yeah, that's very understandable. Thank you for sharing that with us, Peter, as well. Yeah, currency fluctuations, of course. The idea of quoting one price and then waiting reminds me of a friend of mine who used to have a habit of getting the price on a plane ticket, then waiting like 2 months and being surprised when the price had changed. So I think, that's something to be aware of. Now, actually, I think to a degree, all of you may have already answered this next question as we move into the tips for buyers segment of the panel. But nevertheless, I think it's worth asking outright, what's the key, one thing or maybe a few things that your customers should know about or should learn about the materials and the resources that your company has to procure? And Emily, I've had not allowed to speak for. Let's go to Emily. What do you think that your customers should learn or know about your manufacturing inputs?
Okay, I think we think the customers, the buyers should know about our value. The value means that for the R&D team, we have professional R&D team to support the OEM and ODM design, and even for select the most suitable materials to make the parts. And secondly, that we have the quality certificates, just like ISO 9001 and IATF 16949, which is the highest automotive quality standard in the industry. And I think we also offer flexibility for custom parts. So I think that the buyers can consider about the things they should know about our company. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good point. It's the non-material inputs are so important as well, because there are that range of services, and of course, standards are. That's if you don't already know about all the relevant standards for the materials, you need to. Let's give that question to Kevin as well. Kevin, what do you think that buyers need to know or to find out about in terms of the upstream sourcing that your company does?
Yes. Every year the customer to inspection to our factory. Of course, this year that didn't, because they come to here to see factory process from the purchase department, material startup. We show our website because for example, Shanghai material, stainless steel, aluminum, this material website to show them, and we can give the list from 1 year's list, the increase or down. And they know clearly every year the material situation. So this is first. Second is I want to the customer learn our how to say the quality the area in the how to say it's increase step by step. So this is a 2 point. Okay.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Well, let's go to Mickey as well. So, I mean, I already learned something about spandex yarn today. What's something that you think, what's something that buyers should be aware of in terms of inputs? You're muted, by the way. Mickey, sorry, you're on mute. You better turn on your microphone.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. So it's hard to say in one sentence because it's very complicated, I think, for other suppliers as well. So if I give one advice, I would say to understand or to know more about every material's pros and cons and understand there are some limits to certain new materials. For example, I'll use example because it's easier to understand. So for example, the recycled polyester is a very hot trend, and it's going to be the hot trend for the next maybe 5 to even 20 years. And then that's something that we want to optimizing along the way. But there are some limits to that. So for example, the normal polyester, it's good, it's very steady because it has been produced for long, but recycled polyester is very sensitive to dye pigment. So for example, the bright blue color or like, so usually the blue color or the lighter color or sensitive color, it will have lines to the fabric. And that's unavoidable because the recycled polyester yarn has impurities in the yarn. So it's not like the virgin yarn is very pure. So it will make the fabric surface uneven or have lines. And it originally for normal fabric, it will be deemed as defective. But for recycled polyester fabric, that will be considered normal. And the buyer will need to know that. That's the limits to this current industry technical limitation. It's just unavoidable for all of the suppliers. And so that's why I say every material has pros and cons. For example, polyester is good for heat and the nylon's not. So then if you're producing for outdoor, for sun exposure garments, then maybe we should use nylon because it keep the heat. It will not raise very high when you are exposed under the sun. So that's just very two simple examples that I would say.
Thanks very much, Mickey. And I mean, Peter, for you in communications electronics, I imagine, the pros and cons of different techniques or technologies is also a factor. But is there anything else that you think customers need to know or to learn?
Because each product is composed of a lot of components, even up to thousands. So even if there's only one component shortage, then you cannot make it. You still have to wait until this component's in. So what we like to have a customer understand is if the customer, they can provide a longer plan or maybe even a little bit more realistic production plan ahead, then we can purchase material or prepare the production in advance. That's the most important part now. And because the technology is getting advanced faster and faster, and a lot of components is very sensitive. In the 5G, for example, the crystal, if you change one crystal, change the design, and that's waste a lot of time. So in our industry, the most important parts, we need the time and we need the forecast. What I'm saying, we need a very specific plan with the customer to produce the parts. To produce these products.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Peter. And in fact, what Peter's touched on there, this idea of preparing in advance, sharing a plan in order to help the supplier to provide what the buyer needs. That's a very good point. I mean, let's come back to Emily as well. So we've talked about what buyers should know. What can they do to help cope with upstream sourcing difficulties or issues?
I think besides Kingsday has the flexibility, we also hope the customer, the buyer, or even the engineer has the flexibility. Because when we face the some products end of life issue or the raw material shortage, we hope the customer can allow us to introduce the alternative product to them as a second source. So we hope that by this way we can assist them to solve the lead time issue.
I see. Yeah, sort of be open to new alternatives, I guess. And Kevin, what about for you? What can buyers do that would help your company to deal with upstream sourcing issues or difficulties?
How to say? I want to customer know how to say the situation in China now, and please order more for us. It's a very best support.
Fair enough. And Mickey, let's come to you and give you the last word on this question. So yeah, aside from learning about the available materials and so on, what can they do that would help you out in terms of your sourcing? Sorry, you're muted again.
Okay. So yeah, it will be similar to giving us the guide, the buying plan, because that will really help with our flexible production arrangement. But on top of that, we also need to have a transparent communication. This is not something material, but it's really important to have transparent communication. So for example, if our buyers are having a macro strategy of globally production basis, for example, they not only need to have production base in China, they also need to have in Taiwan, they also need to have in, for example, Southeast Asia, like Vietnam or Philippines, in order to be more secure in their, let's say, cash flow or in their international situation. Then that we will need to know, because what if we have our own production bases in Southeast Asia, then we can have our buyers because they trust us already, and we can help them in terms of that. So having a transparent communication about their cash flow, not about cash flow, but about their strategy, about their future planning, then we can really align with our clients. This sounds maybe too big, but that's something that we do with our VIP clients, because we can really help them and support them if we have a transparent communication.
All right, thank you so much, Mickey. Now let's go to the comments. Not too much in the way of questions. Oh, we have this nice comment from JJ on Facebook though, who says, "I always set a reminder whenever you have a scheduled live stream. You guys always have interesting topics. Thanks for sharing." So I'm going to assume that thanks for sharing also applies to our guests today. So thank you, JJ, for your kind words. We also have a slightly long comment on YouTube from Alain Dussauce, who is based in France. I won't put it on the screen right now, but he would like to get in touch with Emily from Kingstate Electronics. So, well, Alain and anyone watching, you can get in touch with any of these excellent suppliers by clicking on the relevant links in the description of this video, or going to globalsources.com and sticking their company name into the search box that is on there. But also, if you want to learn more specifically about Kingstate or Lightspeed, they are appearing in a few minutes' time in our supplier spotlight videos, and I believe they've put their contact info into their videos as well. So stay tuned for that, and thank you for writing in. So yeah, no real questions or requests for clarification, which I think means Kevin, Emily, Mickey, and Peter have done an excellent job in explaining their points and sharing their insights. So thank you so much to all four of you for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time and putting in the effort and dealing with the technical setup that all this requires. So thank you very much. And I hope that we can catch up sometime in the future and maybe talk about another topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you and goodbye and Merry Christmas. Bye.